Hello everyone, this is part 14 of What If Naruto Was Neglected and Escapes to Kumo, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist. To see more, comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. As Onoki was leaving Kumogakure, something important and world-changing was happening in a field near Konoha's Forest of D. A black portal about the size of a standard doorway appeared at the edge of the forest, and a two-tailed black fox stepped warily through the portal and looked around. As soon as it was through, the portal fizzled out of existence with a sharp crackle, and the kitsune turned around rapidly, surprised that the portal was closed so rapidly. Kitsunbe shook his head at the surprise and returned himself to the task at hand. Minato had told him about the instability of the portal and the suspected reasons behind it. In fact, Kitsunbe realized that he was just glad to be alive after a trip through an untested portal. Once again, the shadow fox tore itself away from its distractions and returned to the task. The shadow fox sniffed the air and was pleased to smell faint remnants of his matriarchs, the Kyubi no Kitsune, yokai. The scent was distinct to her, and he followed it toward the village that he could see in the distance. According to Minato, this should have been Konoha, and that was the last known location of his mistress. Thus, Kitsunbe traveled through the shadows and into the village to locate the compounds that Minato had told him about. To think that his mistress was sealed inside of human beings for the past century, it was despicable. As he traveled through the shadows, Kitsunbe reflected on what Minato had told him. The first leader of this village and his wife had subdued and sealed his mistress into the woman, then his wife and then his son. Kitsunbe didn't know how to feel when Minato told the clan about the mating contract between his kitsune goddess and a mortal child. Even if said child were to be a Hanyu. Kitsunbe was broken from his reflections as he appeared at the first supposed location. All he saw was scorched earth and the remains of buildings where a clan compound should stand. Making a mental note of it, he moved by shadow to the next location and found the same thing. Something was clearly wrong here, and he would have to tread carefully before he could figure out what it is. Kitsunbe decided to get some information gathering in, and he went into the village to do some good old-fashioned eavesdropping. The best place to eavesdrop is at a ninja bar, so Kitsunbe followed his nose towards a pub that was populated by a number of shinobi chakra signatures. It was easy for him to root himself in the corner of the room and gather some information as he spread his senses to catch as many of the conversations as he could. The black-eyed people seemed to be in foul moods, and they were cursing some Uzumaki loudly while proclaiming that they would K him next time they saw him. That name caused warning bells to go off, and he tuned into that conversation between two guys with fan crests and some jacket that was wearing small, circular shades in a bar at night. Kitsunbe learned that the names were Ebisu, Hidate and Futo. Yeah, I was there, and I saw the traitorous brat. Ebisu bragged loudly. If it weren't for international law, I would have K him on the spot. Ebisu puffed his chest out boisterously. Hidate raised an eyebrow. I didn't know you were in the S ranks. Futo laughed and backed up his clansman. Yeah, if an Uchiha elite couldn't fell the demon, then what chance would you have? Ebisu hung his head before raising it defiantly. That demon is a fraud. It could never stand up against the might of a Konoha shinobi. That is why it fled to Kumo. That's not what I heard, Futo started. Rumor has it was that the kid D, and his mom brought him back with some freaky Uzumaki-s. Damn demons and traitors, Hidate muttered. That Uzumaki B will get hers. Ebisu said once more in a loud and boisterous tone. Lord Fugaku will make sure that she pays for her crimes. Evidently, we can add raising the D to her offenses. Yeah, I saw the kid's body. It is kinda crazy that we incinerated it years ago and he is walking around now. Futo said before finishing his beer. Then the damned Kyubi appeared in the village during the invasion, Hidate added while shivering. That was truly terrifying. Ebisu growled, it is obviously that boy's fault. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if he was accounted for during the invasion. It is no coincidence that the boy was here at the time and the demon reappeared. Kitsunbe ignored the Uchiha's mutterings, and he decided that was enough information for him. Seems like he would need to figure out where this Kumo is. The Kitsune clan hadn't been able to travel to this world in nearly a century, and it wasn't common knowledge where each village lay. Deciding to snoop some more, the Shadow Fox moved toward the leader's tower in order to find a map and get more information. As the fox traveled through the shadows of the tower at nighttime, he came across the Hokage's office and found it empty. Well, empty if you don't count the two Anbu that are always stationed in the office. Kitsunbe sensed them easy enough, and he was able to avoid detection as he used an illusion over himself and walked silently around the room. There was a map of the elemental nations on the wall, and he took a moment to memorize the map. He also noted the positions of red, green and blue pins that were all placed deliberately on the map. Before Kitsunbe could exfiltrate silently, he sensed 5 people incoming, and from the feeling of their signatures, he knew they would be strong. He tucked into the shadow of a corner behind the Hokage's desk and further suppressed his aura just in case these shinobi were skilled enough to sense him. Fugaku, I am telling you that we should move now. They are exposed, and if we let them prepare any further, then we will not be able to defeat them. Danzo growled emphatically. And I am telling you, Danzo, that if we move in the open, then we will not be able to defeat them at all. If it turns into a head-to-head, then they will defeat us. They have 2 Jinchuriki and whatever that boy is. We still do not know the whereabouts of the Kyuubi or the status of Uzumaki Naruto. That boy has done everything he has done without leaving the slightest trace of demonic yokai associated with the Kyuubi. Kami forbids he has more power to add on top of that. Danzo scoffed, but the 2 other elders shuddered. Koharu turned to Jiraiya. Jiraiya, when you confronted the boy, what did you see and feel? Jiraiya sighed and clapped his hand over his face, trying to shake off the effects of the sake. I don't know. I didn't sense the Kyuubi, but he said that if we come after his family, then we would have to worry about more than the Kyuubi. I warn against fighting him, guys. The power he showed off at the Jonin exams was, well, it was terrifying. It was like Onoki's dust release, except the kid had way more chakra and youth to throw it around. Onoki alone was enough to hold off battalions when he was younger. Fugaku groaned. So, we have an openly hostile, ranked shinobi, his mother, Tsunade, the Hachibi, the Nibi, the Divine Bolts. That is too much. Especially on top of the Fuinjutsu advantage. Fugaku started rubbing his temples. Kiranji has also laid claim to the Namika's name now that they have made the debut. The paperwork is indisputable, and we have already used the funds from that account. Kitsunbe perked up at hearing the Namika's name, and he suppressed the growl that wanted to escape from what he had heard thus far. Danzo scoffed. The boy abandoned his village. He has no right to the fortunes of his family. That is not how the daimyo will see it. Koharu cautioned. We have the fire daimyo, but the rest will be against us. They don't need the money. They just want to exert political pressure and create a headache for us. Jiraiya said wearily. Well, I won't let them distract us. We will send a team to Uzushiogakure and demand an explanation. Fugaku said. Jiraiya held up his hands in a stop gesture. Stop. We cannot get to the island. The whirlpool defenses and the barriers are up around the island. We cannot simply take a ship there. Then we go to Wave and demand an audience. It is well known that Kumo has shinobi stationed in Wave. Fugaku said. Homura was in a thinking pose and nodded his head. That sounds like the best plan. We need to play this carefully lest you forget that they have a bunch of information that we don't want getting out. Danzo scoffed, but Fugaku groaned. It was really becoming bursome to find the moral ground to justify his actions. Homura is right, Danzo. With the resistance from the Shinobi Council, we need to play this carefully. It is amazing that so many of them bear loyalty to Kushina after all these years. Now, please leave me, I have paperwork to finish. Danzo, stay. As the elders and Jiraiya shuffled out of the room, Danzo turned and addressed Fugaku. It is time to use them. Even if we have to be a little rough. Fugaku nodded. Indeed. We will try this diplomacy first, and we will use that time to scout Kiri and locate the 3 and 6 tails. The 3 tails should be reforming any month now. We will use the Akatsuki to secure those while we let these fools play at diplomacy. Once we have them, then it is time to move against Kumo, whether it is openly or in the shadows. And what of Uzushio? Danzo asked. If they prove to be a threat, then we will let our red clouds play. Fugaku finished ominously and the conversation ended. Kitsubi now had his destination, and he had a lot of information that he needed to tell his mistress. Plus, he needed to give her the plans to stabilize the portal and allow her to return to Makai. If things continued the way they were, then there would be no Kitsune clan for her to return to. Kiri's turn in the hot seat. A week had passed since the Iwa envoy had left Kaminari no Kuni and things were moving forward at full pace. Naruto had spent most of the week in the summoning realm talking to his summons. When he asked I for up to 6 months to train in the sage arts with the eagles, I was initially skeptical. Kumo had never had a sage and the only sages he knew of were Jiraiya and the first Hokage. However, Tsunade and Kushina convinced him to allow it, so I was trying to deal with his strongest shinobi being out of the village. An upside of this was that all his spouses-to-be, especially Itachi, Amy, Samui and Mabui, were all looking for missions to distract them from his absence. They were all terrifyingly strong kunoichi and they were split in twos and given a Konoha transfer apiece to round out the teams. In the first week alone, 3 S-rank missions had already been completed and he was content with that. For the time being, he would make do with the B clone, and he would continue to teach his pupil, successor and honorary son. That being said, I wanted the real Naruto here for the Kiri envoy that was set to arrive tomorrow. He knew that the Maya girl wanted Naruto something fierce and he had talked his pupil into giving it a shot for the benefit of Kumo. What he didn't know was who they would offer for the second bloodline. He hoped it was the Haku girl, but he doubted it since she was the last of her line and Kiri wouldn't want to give up the last ice user if they could avoid it. Reikage-sama, Karui peeked her head through his door. The Kiri envoy has landed at Thunderbolt Port and is set to arrive here tomorrow around 9 a.m. Thank you, Karui. Did they perhaps tell you who the second bloodline user would be? I asked sarcastically. Karui chuckled. No, Reikage-sama. Hello to you, Naruto. She shifted her gaze to the clone with a dampened smile on her face. The blood clone looked up from its stack of paperwork. Oh, hello Karui-chan. Did I make any mistakes in that paperwork I sent over? Nope. Karui said proudly. Looks like all those bonks I gave you are starting to pay off. The clone chuckled sheepishly and adopted Naruto's pose, which made Karui blush as his exposed biceps flexed. That is good to know. I will message the boss and tell him to be here tonight. Karui nodded. Yup, I need to talk to him as well. I eyed his head. About what? Karui blushed. Family business. I nodded with understanding since he knew at least part of the ongoing situation very well. So, things with Dodai didn't work out then. Karu's blush turned atomic, which really shone through her dark skin and sun-kissed blonde hair. No, they didn't. He partook of the B program's offer. I shook his head. Dumb A. Well, I am here if you need to talk. That night, Naruto arrived from the summoning realm and found the Maki compound was nearly empty since the clan was in Nuazu, except for Karui. He walked up and gave his older cousin a hug before he went to the fridge and grabbed some milk and a plate of onigiri. When he sat down at the table, he saw Karui looking at him with a serious look. After taking a bite of a rice ball, he eyed his head and asked her the first thing that came to his mind. Did my clone do something to offend you again? Karui chuckled and shook her head with a hesitant smile on her face. Ha, no, Ruto, nothing like that. She shuffled hesitantly before continuing, actually, Dodai and I broke up. Naruto dropped his rice ball on his plate and went to hug his cousin. I am sorry, Karui-chan. What did that idiot do? Karui stifled a sniffle and turned to look into Naruto's eyes. Her golden amber orbs were beautiful when paired with her dark skin and blonde hair. I don't care about him anymore. Ruto, I know this is weird, I know it is hard, but I want to start my family. I am hitting my 30s and I don't want to miss my shot. I want to help the clan and I know that this isn't the normal love, but I love you. Naruto did his best to remain calm, confident and caring and he took a deep breath before responding. Are you sure? Karui nodded without hesitation. Well then, I guess that's okay. Are you really sure you don't want to try and find another? I mean, I really feel guilty about not being able to be there for my family and future children. Karui pulled his chin up and placed a tentative K on his lips. Ruto, we all know what we are getting into. Plus, once things settle down, we can all live together, and I don't know anyone else that can create a clone for each kid and spoil them rotten the way you do. I will tell you why I love you and you can decide from there. Karui pulled on her experience and guided the conversation, knowing very well how hesitant Naruto was about the situation. Naruto appreciated the sentiment, but he was the man of the house and considered it his duty to take the lead. He took a deep breath, sorted his thoughts and spoke in a soft, genuine tone. Okay, well, let me start. I love you because you are strong, determined and passionate. You protect those you love fiercely, and you give yourself completely to them. Naruto whispered to Karui as their faces were mere inches apart. Karu's uncertainty vanished, and a soft smile crept upon her face. Thank you for that, Ruto. She placed a tender and less tentative K on his lips. I love you for your passion, love of family, your courage, strength and dedication to your dream. I love that under all that muscle there is a golden heart. I love watching how you care for Tsunami, little Kaiser and Inari. I have zero doubts that you will be an amazing, if not unconventional, father. I know that you will lead Kumo well and you will care for our village and family with all you have. That is why I want you. Naruto shrugged with a pleasant smile on his face after he received the go-ahead from Hikari. He looked her in the eyes and asked, Kitsune or human? Karui blushed devilishly, Kitsune. 30 minutes later they saw the caravan on the horizon and within the hour the carriage carrying Mei, Ao, Zabuza, Maya, Haku and Chojuro opened, and they all hopped out to greet their hosts. The greeting was formal, and it was clear that Maya was instructed to restrain herself. I was excited to see Haku present since it was the bloodline, aside from Maya's own, that he wanted the most for Kumo. The group enjoyed a slow walk up the mountain to the Raikage Tower so that the guests could enjoy the sights and shops of Kumo. Maya pulled Naruto into one of the kunoichi clothing shops that had sprung up and she squealed in glee when she saw the Senju clothing line. She made the group halt and wait for 20 minutes as she tried on the cutest clothing she saw in the store while she got Naruto's opinion on every item she tried on. Naruto relented and gave himself into the fun of the situation, and it helped that Haku was there trying things on as well. While Maya was loud, happy and overly affectionate, Haku was the exact opposite as she remained cool, collected and quiet. So, Ruto, where are the girls? I was hoping that they would be here. Maya asked as she came back out with a blue and gold battle kimono that was modeled off the colors of the divine bolts. They are either in Nuazu or out on missions. I, myself, was actually in my summoning realm until yesterday and I will need to return there once your visit is concluded. Naruto said. Maya poked her head out between the curtains with a pouty face on, so, I am going to be here all alone. Naruto chuckled and shook his head, nah, my B-clone holds things down for me while I am out of the village. I doubt you will even be able to tell the difference initially. Haku came out with a blue sundress, also in the colors of the DBs. That is interesting. Why use the B-clone for such things? Well, when I return from my missions, or from the summoning realm in this case, I can sync with it and gain the memories while I am powering it back up. It is how I am training for my future duties as Raikage, and it is how I hold things down. It also keeps my girls happy in my absence. Naruto said nonchalantly. That sounds handy. What are the drawbacks? Maya asked. Super heavy chakra cost. When I sync with it, I also need to deal with the memories and accumulated exhaustion. Plus, my B-clones tend to act up every now and then. Haku cracked a wry smile and chuckled a bit. It sounds like there is a story there. Haku left it open so that Naruto would spill the beans. Oh, please tell, Maya said in a girly manner while jumping up and down in one of the dark red. Naruto sighed. Well, during the Chunin exams, it went off and Katemari while I was doing other things. That created some awkwardness for a while. During my time as the Raikage's apprentice, my clones have, well let's just say they have S of their own and they don't feel the need to restrain themselves the way I typically do. You restrain yourself? Haku asked with a red eyebrow. How many girlfriends and fiancés do you have? Naruto chuckled and adopted his sheepish pose, which made both girls blush fiercely as they ogled his yummy arms. Yeah, well, I am fiercely loyal to those I love. Unfortunately, my B-clones don't restrain themselves as much. This baffled the girls, but Mei demanded that they return to the task at hand. After Naruto promised more future shopping trips, the girls each bought some brass from the shop and rejoined the group. The conversation was lively and friendly as they traversed the steep slope up to the Raikage Tower. Mei was talking with Kushina and I when Naruto sped up to join the conversation. Last I checked in, Kumo was a militaristic village. I am seeing a lot more civilians than I expected for such a reputation. Mei asked while looking around. I chuckled and cast a thumb towards Kushina. I have Kushina to thank for that. Due to our prosperity, we have been able to expand, and our increased reputation drew many civilians to the village. We are actually preparing the neighboring mountains for civilian housing and city expansions. That's incredible, Mei said while soaking in the lively atmosphere of Kumo in the morning. Yup, I am super proud. Naruto trailed off as he caught sight of someone that needed a good force feeding of humble pie. Be right back. As Naruto darted off, I looked towards where he was going and understanding passed over his face. It was the same for Kushina and they exchanged amused looks as the spectacle played out. Mei looked between the two confused and asked for an explanation, but they just told her to watch the show. Dodai was enjoying his elevated status in Kumo since he became a member, tutor of the Divine Bolts. Dodai had just finished breakfast with some fellow Jonin when he was suddenly hoisted into the air by his ankle. He screamed out in frustration until he was able to collect himself enough to see he was being held up by a chakra chain. The chain S around a corner, and he was pulled backwards with it until he was hovering upside down on the main street of Kumo in the main square. He looked down to see a scowling Ruto, which was a scary scene for any man, woman or child to witness when the scowl was directed at oneself. Ruto, what's the meaning of this? Dodai asked shakily as an oppressive wave of killing intent hit him. Naruto flared his ki and deepened his scowl. What did I tell you would happen if you hurt a member of my family? Naruto's tone was deep and husky as the demonic chakra influenced his vocal cords. Dodai shook his head and waved his hands in front of him. I told Karui that she could be my head wife, but I wanted to take part in the B program. She didn't like that. Naruto's scowl deepened as the public shaming continued. So, what? You wanted a harem and my cousin because wasn't. Naruto paused as Karu's hand landed on his shoulder and a pleading look flashed across her face. Dodai scoffed, as if you have any reason to judge me for wanting multiple wives. Women around the square scowled and growled at that. Naruto's eyes turned red and slitted, and his tail sprouted out behind him while his kitsune ears were exposed to Kumo's public for the first time. There were gasps all around as women swooned and men took a step back in fear. The rampaging emotions were causing Naruto to lose control of his chakra and he was pulling on a bit of Hikari's yokai. His voice was now a growl as he addressed Dodai and Karui didn't even try to stop him anymore. Quote, Ruto. I barked, that is enough. Naruto instantly turned around, snapped off a salute and retracted his chains, which dropped Dodai unceremoniously onto the ground. Yes, Raikage-sama. Dodai scrambled to his feet and also saluted the Raikage. As you wish, Raikage-sama. Dodai, return to your assigned mission. We will talk later. I growled, Ruto, we have guests, please behave yourself. Ruto adopted his sheepish pose and felt the kitsune ears on top of his head. It was then that he noticed that he was in his kitsune form, and he was forced to deal with Hikari's laughter in the mindscape. Naruto didn't feel like hiding it anymore, so he stayed in his kitsune form and walked up to the Raikage Tower with pride. The new look drew gasps and mutterings from the crowd and I groaned about all the paperwork this would create for him. Alas, the Kiri contingent and Kumo's top brass made it to the conference room and sat down to begin negotiations for their official upgraded treaty. After explaining Naruto's situation, Maya was even more insistent upon joining Naruto in Kumo. That was to be expected and the alliance would prove to be very beneficial for Kumo, Kiri and Nuazu. That all sounds very good, Mei began. Now, we need to address the two bloodlines we promised you and I am rather excited to offer my daughter and myself as the two promised bloodline users. I was stunned, Kushina choked on the water she was sipping, and Naruto aired his head in confusion. Mei-sama, you wish to offer yourself? Mei nodded and smiled at Naruto. Yes, I have stabilized Kiri and I do not wish to be separated from my daughter. If Kumo accepts, the Kiri Council has approved Ao as my successor. Truth be told, He handles most of the serious operations at this point in order to let me focus on rebuilding. I love Kiri, but I love my daughter more. I coughed into his hand to clear his throat and gather his thoughts. Well, that is rather generous. Did you have an intended? May smiled seductively at I. Yes, I-kun, I wish to marry you. The marriage of two Cage would create an inseparable bond between our nations, and any children we have would be powerful enough to protect our alliance. This statement earned a coughing fit from Kushina. Naruto looked at her with concern and I reverted into his stone-faced, stoic mask. I remained silent and Kushina looked at him expectantly for a couple minutes before she turned to address May. May-chan, this was rather unexpected. Please allow me a chance to talk with him and we will return in a few minutes. Kushina said in as steady of a tone as she could manage. She squeezed Naruto's hand before she walked out of the conference room with I. Ruto-kun, did I say something wrong? May asked with confusion laced across her beautiful visage. Naruto offered a sincere smile and shook his head. No, Lady May, you did nothing wrong. Your offer caught us off guard is all. It is new, but my mother and I recently started a relationship. Naruto held up a hand to stop May's freakout before it could start. Lady May, we will each do what is best for Kumo. You are an absolutely amazing woman, and you would be a wonderful addition to Kumo. I ask that we just let them process things. May nodded to this, and an unsteady silence hovered over the conference room. In another room, Kushina placed a privacy barrier up and pulled I into a hug. They held the hug for a couple minutes in silence and I didn't know where to begin. It was Kushina that pushed him away and her violet eyes clashed with his cocoa irises. I-kun, I want you to accept her offer, Kushina said quietly. Why? I stuttered out, surprised by her words. Kushina's eyes reached into his soul and gripped his heart as she said, we have both asked my son to do the same for Kumo. It is undeniably in Kumo's best interest for you to accept this offer. I can't give you children. And I am fine with that. I protested. Ruto is already a man I consider my own son. Kushina shook her head sadly. You are a great man and a leader of this village. Even after you step down, you will be one of the strongest shinobi and you will be my son's advisor. Kumo needs you and I want you to have a family of your own. Ruto is mine, I said passionately. It may not be by blood, but that young man is mine, yours and Minato's. Kushi-chan, we just got started. You asked my son to accept Amy and Maya for the same reasons that I am giving you. I appreciate your love, I really do. To be honest, it will change very little between us. It will allow you to build a family with a beautiful and powerful woman while securing the future for Kumo. It is your duty to Kumo, I-kun. Kushina said softly, yet firmly. I will try, I said under his breath before he shook himself out and put the mask of the raikage back on. Just give it a chance, Kushina said in a chipper voice. Who knows, my distant cousin may wish to model you after Ruto. She teased I and made him chuckle before they walked back into the conference room together. Lady Sheena, May began but paused when Kushina held up her hand. Kushina offered May a smile. Your offer is generous, and it is clearly in the best interests of both nations. If I get to spend more time with my cousin, then that is all the better. I cleared the frog from his throat and followed that up. It is as Lady Kushina says. I accept your offer and I am willing to give us a try if you are. The big hunk of a man offered a sincere smile to May that made the Mizukage blush. Ao stepped in. If that is the case, then upon your marriage I will take over as the Mizukage. Moving forward, as per the terms of the treaty, I would like to request a couple Fuinjutsu instructors to aid in Kiri's Fuinjutsu lessons. I would like to have them trained as much as possible before the newest levels are entrusted to us upon your marriage. Kushina stepped forward on this. In honor of our partnership with Kumo and Kiri, I will select 10 instructors to assist you in your academy. We will loan them to you in 1-year rotations until your own instructors can be trained up. I will caution you, the lower levels of Uzumaki ceiling are easy enough. We have less than 10 people in Kumo that have exceed past level 8 and 7 of those 10 are Uzumakis. It is a difficult art, and we cannot promise results. Al nodded. That was to be expected. We simply wish to get the basic training handled so that we may be more self-sufficient. May stepped in. Ao, I nominate you as my successor and I entrust you with the duties of the Mizukage while I attend to the treaty here. Ao bowed. It will be done, Lady May. Zabuza grunted. She just wanted to run away from the paperwork. Haku slapped Zabuza on the shoulder. Father, do not say such things in a formal environment. I laughed. Oh, Haku-chan, it is more than okay. We all understand the miserable foe that is paperwork. Kushina giggled, knowing the likely reaction to what she was about to offer. Hey, Ao, what would you offer for a technique that cuts your paperwork time into a third? Ao's uncovered eye widened, and he bowed into an L shape to Kushina. I would offer an open favor to Kumo and Azua piece. Kushina giggled and I belted out a laugh. It is called the Shadow Clone Jutsu. I will get you the Jutsu scroll before you leave. May stood up hesitantly and walked up to Ai and placed a slender hand on his chest. Are you sure you're okay with this? She couldn't stop her eyes from flicking to Kushina. She had thought that I was single, and she had missed the fact that they were together during the Jonin exams. Truth be told, all May wanted was a good man to treat her right and give her the love she felt from her first lover before he left. Since that day, May had been denied the tender warmth of love's embrace. It is probably because of that that she started thinking of I in a romantic manner while she waited in Kiri to come here. I smiled gently down at May. Why don't we talk about it over dinner? Me, you and Kushina can sort it out. May nodded before Kushina chirped. Sounds good to me. Ruto, since our parents are going out, would you? Maya lowered her eyes and fidgeted around nervously. Maya-chan, would you do me the honor of joining me for a private dinner tonight? Naruto took over for the nervous girl, which earned an excited nod and hug. As the groups separated, the Kiri contingent was hosted in a dignitary guest house and Kushina returned to the Maki compound with Naruto. He pulled his mother into a hug and let her cry out her frustration. It took a lot for her to let her walls down and let I in. It felt like a sucker punch to the gut to let him go like that, but it was probably for the best. Kushina had always felt guilty about loving someone other than Minato and she felt terrible that she couldn't give Ai a child of his own. Alas, everything would be okay so long as she had her Sochi. The date with Maya was good, in Naruto's opinion. It was short of great and far from terrible, but the girl was so nervous around Naruto now that things were official, that Naruto spent most of the time tending to her needs and anxieties. It took over half of the dinner for her to mellow out and it wasn't until they were walking around Kumo at night that she settled into herself. Hikari had watched highly amused from within the seal, but the feelings she got from the girl were genuine. She decided to allow it for now, but the nervous, clumsy girl act would only remain cute for so long. With Kushina, I and May, the dinner was awkward. May genuinely appreciated Kushina, and she felt terrible for stepping on her toes in this manner. I didn't know how to act with his current girlfriend there and his now intended spouse sitting on the other side of the table. For a long time, he had thought that he would be jealous of Naruto. Now, he simply wished for the love of one good woman and the happiness of family. So, Mei-chan, what drew you to Ai? Kushina asked while stirring her straw in her girly, alcoholic drink. Mei shuffled some food around on her tray before looking up and addressing the question. Well, Kushi-chan, I saw the way he acted with Naruto during the Jonin exams. Kami's honest truth, the way he looks at that boy made me wish he was Maya's father. As soon as that thought sent in, well, it just stirred there until now. Kushina appreciated the answer and reached across the table and squeezed Mei's hand affectionately. That was a lot better answer than I was expecting. Look, I love this man, but I will step aside for the sake of our nations. I just ask that you take care of him. Mei offered a sincere smile and tears beaded at the corners of her eyes. She dabbed them with a napkin before she nodded. I didn't know what to say, but he added his hand to their two joined hands. We have the rest of our lives to get this figured out. There is no rush. The rest of the dinner was better and as the drinks started flowing, things came more naturally between the trio. A drunk Mei expressed her sorrow, but the Kiri Council had already approved of the motion, and it would create a sizable blowback if she were to change her intended now. Kushina repeatedly comforted the red-headed beauty, and she was emotionally exhausted by the time she returned to the Maki compound. Kushina checked in and saw Naruto drinking on the porch with Hikari and Karui. She went out and joined her family to vent her frustrations and lower her mask. As Hikari got closer, Her senses began feeling something she hadn't felt in nearly 100 years. Her hands clasped over her mouth and her usual confidence disappeared as her stride faltered. Naruto immediately noticed and caught his kitsune beauty in his arms. He noticed her eyes were locked on the front gate and he sensed something foreign, yet familiar, waiting for them there. Naruto reassured Hikari and they opened the gate and noticed a black blur slide into the compound. Naruto closed the gate before turning and taking a defensive stance in front of Hikari. He locked eyes with amber eyes with vertical black slits that were surrounded by midnight black fur. The kitsune's whole body was midnight black except for burnt orange tips on the ears and belly. Who are you? Naruto asked wearily, but he was promptly ignored by the shadow fox. Kitsume walked slowly forward to Hikari, sniffed twice quickly and then knelt into a bow in front of her with his head completely prostrated to the ground. I have come for you, milady. Hikari looked over the fox, a figure she hadn't seen in well over a century, before she responded. Kitsume, is that you? Yes, milady. How are you here? Hikari asked immediately. Minato-sama completed a temporary version of the portal with Fuinjutsu. He sent me with instructions for a stabilizing seal on this side that should be able to link Makai to the human realm. Kitsume said with his head still bowed. Dad, he did it. Naruto asked in amazement, that's amazing. Raise your head, Kitsume. It is good to see you again. Now, come inside and share your story with us. Hikari said having regained her composure and it was the first time that Naruto witnessed her commanding presence. Yes, milady. Kitsume replied before trailing right behind his mistress on her left flank. While walking, he was analyzing the human and his mistress. It was clear that something was different, and he had a feeling he wouldn't like the answers he would find. As they walked into the kitchen, Kitsume transitioned into a humanoid kitsune form with a slick black kimono and midnight black hair. He appeared to be in his early 20s by human standards, but that didn't say much. He was also much smaller than Naruto and he felt the difference in their power as he was surprised to see the human walking calmly with 4 kitsune tails flicking around behind him. Tea, milk or coffee, Kitsume-san? Naruto asked cordially. Kitsume looked hesitantly towards Hikari, and Hikari answered for him, let's go with coffee. The demonic realm doesn't have much in the way of luxury. As Naruto was pouring 3 cups of coffee, Kushina appeared in the kitchen in her nightgown, and she said to make it 4 cups before she was startled by the presence of the dark kitsune male. She sputtered out, NN Naruto, what's going on? Relax, Shina. Hikari said blandly, this is Kitsume, one of the scouts and messengers of the Kitsune clan. Oh, okay then, she replied before acting like she received an electric shock. Wait, so, the portals have been fixed? She asked in a shout. Relax, Car-chan, we haven't gotten to that yet. Now, let me fix this coffee and we will hear him out. Naruto said while pouring coffee out of the coffee maker. Kitsume's aura sobered, milady, without your leadership and chakra blessings, we are in danger of losing our lands. We have already lost our satellite territories. Hikari's aura flared at the news. To who? The orcs and minotaurs. They have allied together, and they have been pushing back the great clans. They have already conquered the demon cats and tanukis. Hikari clicked her teeth. Shikaku and Matatabi aren't going to like that. What of our clan? And who united 2 warmongering idiot clans? The Minotaur Lord and Orc Lord fought to a draw nearly 30 years ago and a shaky peace was reached. 15 years ago, after Minato defeated them soundly in battle, they allied together. My dad was able to defeat them as a one-tail. Naruto cut in. Kitsume shook his head. I do not know how he did it, but he trained and is now a 3-tails. Normally it takes centuries to grow tails, but I see that you already have bested your father, as a Hanyu at that. Naruto took Hikari's hand in his. Well, when a kitsune goddess is one's destined one should do all in one's power to make oneself worthy of such a queen. Hikari looked fondly at Naruto and rubbed her thumb on top of his hand. Kitsume's head snapped to Hikari, so, it is true. You chose a human as your Hikari and Kushina each adopted proud smirks on their faces, but it was Hikari that spoke. Ruto is an absolutely amazing man and worthy He is 16 and he is already on his way to his 5th tail. He has exceeded all expectations and our progeny will revitalize the Kitsune clan. Your progeny, milady? The Kitsune asked hesitantly. Hikari nodded. Although there are more important things to address, I am due for my M cycle sometime in the next 5 or 6 years. However, Ruto is already siring kits, and if we are able to restore the portal to Makai, then we will beat the pigs and cows back. It still amazes me that they were able to gain so much territory. Hikari nodded somberly. I understand. Now, tell me about this portal and what is needed from us on this side. Kitsunbe pulled out a notebook from his pocket and handed it reverently to Hikari, who glanced at it before handing it to Naruto. My M is much like his father. He is a Fuinjutsu master and he will be the one to decipher his father's work. Naruto created 10 clones who took the notebook and went to work in the study. So, why are you the only messenger sent? The portal was unstable, and the cost was too great. It took 10 5-tailed Kitsune warriors to power the portal and it closed immediately after I passed through. Kitsunbe replied somberly. Minato-sama speculated that the portal would be a one-time use. With the pressure from the orcs and Minotaur, we couldn't fully commit to the project. Naruto placed a reassuring hand on the Kitsune's shoulder. We will get it figured out. We have some problems on our end to address as well, but we will be able to get it figured out and I will protect both of my families. Kitsunbe looked up in awe, having gotten his first taste of Naruto's charisma and leadership. He was now closer to understanding the reverent look that Hikari was giving her. Kitsunbe bowed his head to Naruto. Yes, my lord. Naruto waved his hands in front of him. No, 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 none of that formal BS. You can call me Ruto, and until we can figure out a way back, you are free to stay here as family. Thank you, my lord, he answered reverently, despite Naruto's protest and the giggles of Kushina and Hikari. Hikari got back into serious mode and addressed the first clan member she had seen in a century. Kitsunbe, there are some things you should know. First, I am technically sealed into Naruto. I will need to remain in him until his 6th tail in order to leave him completely without him. Kitsunbe edged his head to the side in confusion. Milady. You are sealed in him. Is that why your aura is much weaker than normal? Yes, Hikari answered simply before pausing and continuing. I do not need to explain myself to you. I entered into a contract with Minato in order to escape human persecution, and it allowed me to select Ruto as my M. It was the best decision of my long life, and I couldn't be more content. Now, is there anything else you need to report before getting settled in? Yes, milady, Kitsunbe said while bowing before he told him about what he overheard in Konoha before he traveled to Kumo. Once I arrived here, I was able to sense your, or more likely Ruto-sama's aura, almost immediately. Throughout the story, Naruto, Kushina and Hikari were scowling and killing intent was leaking off of the in droves. Naruto spoke first. While this isn't hard proof, it is more than enough to validate our concerns. Be patient, Sochi, Kushina said while reeling in her own ki. We will catch them in the act and move on them. It sounds like Fugaku and the cripple are the ones controlling the Akatsuki. I doubt Konoha is entirely behind them, but they will fight if Fugaku can find a valid reason. Then they will be destroyed. Hikari growled before Naruto stroked her tails and changed her growl into a purr. Ka-chan, please take this to I need to get back to the Eagles. If I am to deal with Konoha, Akatsuki and Makai, then I need to get stronger. Naruto said while forcibly calming himself. Kushina pulled Naruto into a hug and placed a K on his cheek. Okay, Sochi. Be careful, and please take care of him, Ri-chan. Hikari nodded. I will. Ruto, why don't you go say goodbye to Karui and Maya? It will be the last time in a while you will be able to see those girls. Kushi-chan, watch over the girls for us. Kushina giggled. Will do. Have fun with the Eagles. I will be waiting to spar with you upon your return. As Hikari and Naruto left the house in a reverse summoning, Kushina turned to address Kitsunbe. Alright, well, why don't we get you settled in and then I will introduce you to the Reikage. Kitsunbe was hesitant. He doesn't take orders from anyone that isn't a clan member or his mistress. Who are you, mom? Kushina chuckled. Well, I am Ruto's mother, which means I will be the mother-in-law of your mistress in a couple months. Oh, well, okay then. Relax, Kitsunbe. If you're going to be stuck here, you may as well enjoy it. We Uzumakis are a rowdy bunch, and we despise formality. Now, while we get you settled, will you tell me more about my Minato-kun? You are the wife of Minato-sama. Kitsume said in shock before clumsily bowing. Yes, and relax. Now, how is Minato-kun? Kushina waved off the bow and walked towards the bedrooms. Quote, Kushina chuckled and blushed a bit. So, he still loves me. Very much so, milady. Kushina hummed before throwing herself into the task of getting the newest Uzumaki set up in the village. She had a lot to think about, and it was almost a divine sign that the issues with Mei and I came up right before news of Minato arrived. She walked past the study where she could hear the clones talking animatedly about the portal. She set the humanoid fox up in the guest room before taking him out on the town and buying some clothes and essentials for him. Eagle's Rest, Appalachian Mountains, 2 months into training. Virginia was flying around the peak of the highest mountain where she could see 200 clones practicing the Eagle clan's arts. The boy was a natural with the wind element and he had taken to the training with gusto. Furthermore, he was adding in the wind and water elements and the results could only be described as tempestuous. She knew it was because of the challenges that awaited the young man, but she also knew that he was more than ready to deal with them. Virginia veered away from the mountain and flew up into the clouds where she left the real Naruto with Old York. As she cleared the cloud break to see the sunny sky, she flew over to the duo. Naruto was resting peacefully atop the clouds with his eyes closed in a lotus position. Cloud sitting was an advanced chakra control exercise, and it was mastered by Naruto within a week of his arrival. It was also the first step of weather control and an essential for any sage trainee. Virginia could sense the natural energy present in the currents of air gathering around her summoner, and the feeling grew stronger as she approached. Old York saw his young pupil flying through the skies and he left his summoner to his meditation. As he banked and matched Virginia's speed, he opened the conversation. What brings you here, young one? Virginia clicked her beak in agitation. Look, geezer, I am hundreds of years old. Just because you are a flying fossil doesn't make me a young one. Old York let out a wheezy laugh. Very well, what brings you here? I wish to check on Naruto. I have worked with his clones, but you have monopolized him since his return. She answered agitatedly. Old York laughed once more in the creepy way only old men can. JJJ, relax young one, we are moving to the next stage of his training. It requires his complete attention. The next stage already. York nodded. Yes, he is ready. He is already cycling the sky energy. If the toads weren't our adversaries, I would have already bragged to old Gamamaru and Bunter about it. Impressive, Virginia said as her eyes locked back onto the man she had come to respect. Any word from young Delaware? Old York asked after tracing her admiring gaze to their summoner. No, the Raikage is pleased with the B-clone's work, but he wants Naruto back as soon as possible. Virginia answered absent-mindedly. Not to mention, he is due to be married in a couple months and his M want to spend time with him. Old York trickled blood from his beak as memories of the pictures he found among Naruto's possessions hit his old brain. Ah, yes, well, it shouldn't be much longer at this rate. Kumo Raikage's office, 3.5 months into Naruto's training. I was sitting in his office after his morning workout, and he took his seat next to the B-clone of Naruto. It had been a strange couple months for I. His relationship with Kushina was shaky and his new relationship with Mei was unexpectedly pleasant. He knew the woman was beautiful, but he didn't expect things to progress so naturally. The red-headed beauty was fully committed to getting to know him and she was an attentive girlfriend, fiancé, or whatever term the treaty used for the engagement period. That being said, I felt super guilty for the effects his new relationship was having on Kushina. He had tried to be attentive to the woman, but things had changed completely. It was purely professional and plutonic interactions, which contrasted sharply with the past 12 years of flirtiness and joking. I also noticed that Kushina was spending most of her time in Uezu, which was part of the plan, so maybe he was overthinking things. I dropped the dumbbell that he was absent-mindedly curling and sipped on his coffee before he returned back to his paperwork. That was when Karui kicked the door open with a panicked look on her face. I instantly jumped to his feet and the Naruto clone kept reviewing the mission paperwork since it had grown accustomed to the overdramatic actions of the two. Raikage-sama, Karui shouted as she bounded down to Ai's desk in panic. Relax, Karui. Take a breath and explain. I said firmly, knowing that very few things could rattle Karui in such a way. He took the scroll from her dainty hand as she was panicking, and tears were beginning to fall. As I read the note, the blood clone began comforting Karui. It took I reading the communication scroll 3 times before he was able to break himself out of his shock. Code Yellow, the message started, which already had I on high alert. Code Yellow meant casualties and ninja captured. Mission to Rice Country failed. Ambushed by Orochimaru 2 hours ago. Tayuya and Archoi captured. Omoi critically injured. Ni Yugito requesting immediate reinforcements. In cave 15 miles north of Rice capital. I was stunned beyond belief. This was horrible, terrifying, catastrophic. He felt a hand from the Naruto clone, and he snapped his mind out of the panic and forced himself back into Raikage mode. Naruto, call the original back now. Bolt, I shouted, and moments later a squad of Bolt was on bended knee in front of him. QRF to assist Ni Yugito and her team needed. Move out in 10 minutes. Destination is 15 miles north of Rice capital. As the Bolt disappeared, I scooped Karui up and tapped her lightly on her cheeks. Karui, I need you to alert Kushina. Also send recall orders to Mabui, Samui, Itachi, Amy, Genma and Yugao. Next, get me as many teams as you can in the next hour. Karui nodded shakily. Why yes, our Raikage Sama. Appalachian Mountains 8 p.m. Same day as A. Naruto was running atop the clouds of the Appalachian Mountains and dodging left and right as wind blades sheared fluffy holes in the cloud base he was running on. 3 eagles the size of fighter jets screeched as Naruto dodged to the right in a barrel roll. Before Naruto could recover from the barrel roll, he was forced to put his hands out in front of him and create an air wall to stop his progress as Virginia's beak flashed in front of him before the rest of her body passed as well. Before Naruto could enjoy the feeling of successfully dodging a senjutsu-empowered Virginia, he was forced into a series of back handsprings of the bank of the clouds to dodge a successive series of wind talon blades from the old codger of an eagle sage that looked to be sweating from the effort he was putting into skewering his student. Having had enough, Naruto encased his arms in wind and slung them in front of his body. This sent 2 supremely sharp wind blades at the hovering eagle sage. Old York squawked agitatedly and sent 2 powerful wind blasts from his wings to dispel the incoming wind blades. Oi, Sonny, this is a dodging and sensory exercise. Naruto scoffed as another flight of eagles whizzed past him with deadly talons posed to shred him. Naruto ran towards them, slid on his knees on the cloud bank and bent backwards. He slid under the trio of eagle talons and let his back skate along the clouds before he put his hands down and expelled a burst of blunt air from each hand. This allowed him to vault and flip over Virginia before she could tackle him out of the air. As he landed on his feet, he heard the crazy old eagle screech, and the exercise came to a halt. Naruto walked back along the top of the clouds and approached the 10 eagles that were formed up in front of Old York. He didn't understand why they respected the crazy old codger so much, but it was probably because the old bat was a sage. He admitted that he had gotten stronger and faster from his senjutsu training. Sage mode was pretty much the same power-up as Stage 3 lightning armor, except his sensory abilities were far better. As Naruto closed the distance, the blue and white markings that looked like tactical slashes across his face began fading. His eyes reverted to their normal azure blue as the electric look faded. The chakra coating his hands, arms and back began dispersing, which caused the overlaid plume of chakra to fizzle out of existence. With the last of the natural energy returning to the airstream, Naruto looked up to Old York and Virginia. Old York huffed and turned his beak away from Naruto, petulant youngster. Attacking your own elder in the middle of an exercise. Stupid old bat, you were launching so many wind talons that I had to distract you. Naruto scoffed with a playful smirk on his face. I mean, seriously, it still amazes me how quickly you can throw those things out still. Old York huffed in defiance before he let out one of those chuckles unique to ancient, old crones. Virginia watched her summoner with fond reminiscence as he interacted with her sensei. Ruto, cut the old goat a break. You were dodging the screaming eagle battalion with ease, and he needed to create an opening for us. Ginny, Naruto protested, last time I took one of his wind blades, I was nearly torn in half before I crashed into the mountains below. Do you know how bad it hurts to fall from over 1,000 feet up? Virginia laughed and Old York chuckled. You were already adept at absorbing natural energy, young one. I knew you could take it. Naruto rubbed the phantom pain in his chest where the wind blade had attempted to rip him in half. Alright, is that it for the day? Sun is getting low, and I know you struggle with your night vision, old bat. Old York scoffed, ungrateful brats. Fly into the mountain one time and suddenly I can't see at night. Everyone was forced to wipe up their sweat drops before Virginia muttered something under her beak. One time, once a month you crash into the mountain at night, you old bat. Old York cackled like an old loon. Oh. Is that so? My bird brain memory isn't what it used to be. I only remember the last time. Alright, well, I am going to go get some rest and settle down for the night. Cloud walking all day really takes it out of me. Naruto shot into the conversation, which got a nod from the eagle sage. Naruto let the chakra in his feet fade and he plummeted through the clouds. He channeled wind chakra to his back and arms and glided through the sky that was painted a myriad of colors by the sunset as he controlled his fall back down to the eagle's nest. As he approached the mountain peak, he pushed wind chakra out of his chest and used that to slow his descent. He leaned upwards and landed in a skip in front of his temporary home. Naruto opened the door wearily and headed to the kitchen to get some food on the camping equipment that he had been using for the last 3 months. The eagles had no need for homes or cooking equipment since they ate everything raw. Naruto had tried the raw fish and he admitted that raw salmon sliced into sashimi was delicious. However, trying to eat uncooked goat, antelope, ram, bear or any of the other mammals on the mountain was an absolute no-go. For the night, Naruto put a fillet of Atlantic cod in the pan, and he went to the field shower that he used to clean off. Naruto didn't know what he would have done if he didn't have his Fuinjutsu field camp with him when he trained with the eagles. Outside in the nest was beautiful, but there was something nice about the cover offered by his modest shelter. After the shower, Naruto switched into a fresh uniform before he returned to the fish. While eating, Naruto noticed that his communication scroll was blinking, which meant he had a message from the Raikage waiting for him. I had confiscated his communication scrolls with his girls because he said that if he was losing his best ninja for months, then Naruto should focus solely on his training. He sorely missed his girls, and he would give anything to cuddle up next to them at night. Lucky B-clone, he knew the B-clone was probably doing just that right about now. After shoveling another piece of cod into his mouth, Naruto got out of his chair and walked over to the communication scroll. Without another thought, he opened the scroll and began reading. As he read, his eyes lit red with fury and his aura flared. His tail swished agitatedly around him, and he ran out of his shelter before letting out an ear-splitting shriek. Within minutes, most of the Eagle clan was formed up in front of him and they all made way for America to land in front of him, followed shortly after by Old York and Virginia. Ruto, what is going on? America asked as the leader of her clan. Naruto dipped his head to the clan head of his summons. Lady, America, I need to return to Kumo, and I humbly request the assistance of the Eagles when I return. What is going on, young one? Old York asked seriously. Naruto's aura flared further as the thoughts of his family being taken raced to the front of his mind again. My family is in danger, and it is reported that Archoi was in action. Penny stepped forward. Oh no. Not young Archoi-chan. This sentiment was mirrored in squawks from the other eagles. Calm down, Ruto. Tell us what happened. Virginia said calmly as she nuzzled her beak into his neck. Naruto reflexively scratched her neck as he answered, I just read a message from Orochimaru ambushed the Squad 13 of the Divine Bolts and hurt Yugito and Omoi. It was said that Archoi was and Tayuya was captured. The Eagle clan squawked in defiance of what they just heard. The flight, the term for a family of eagles, was the most important thing to each eagle and they counted each of the Divine Bolts as members of their flight. They had each flown with, trained with and bonded with each individual member of the Divine Bolts. This news was too much for them to take in. Alas, it was America that took control. We will send you back immediately. What do you need from us? She asked in a soothing and confident voice. They don't know where Tayuya is. The beacon tags that we all carry, there is no way Orochimaru would miss that. But I gave each of my girls a Horatian beacon. If I get close enough, I can feel her, I can save her. Naruto struggled to get his thoughts in order from the feelings of rage that threatened to overwhelm him. Take a deep breath, Ruto. We will find her. Hikari soothed from the mindscape. She herself had been losing herself to rage before she saw how much her needed her, and she was able to reel in her own emotions. And when we do, that snake is going to die. I am with you always, Virginia said passionately out in the real world. This statement earned a bunch of confirming squawks from the Eagle clan. Virginia is right. I will summon every flight of the eagles and we will wait for your summons. America backed up her daughter. Remember, young one, listen to the winds and synchronize with them. The winds will help you find your family. Old York added before he sent Naruto back to Kumo. Raikage's office 8:30 p.m., night of A. Naruto appeared in the office in a puff of smoke, and he wasn't surprised to see that the office was in full-on mission mode, despite the time of night. In the office, Kushina, Tsunade, Karui, Mei, Darui, Killer Bee and she were taking in status reports and updating the battle map that was displayed on the wall of the office. I had pins tracking teams that were approaching the border with Rice Country, and Naruto could see that they were already spread out. It took all of Naruto's self-restraint to not jump out of Ai's window and join the search. What's the news, Raikage-sama? Naruto said formally and forcefully, which made the room still and everyone turned in an instinctive response to his commanding tone. Sochi, Kushina said softly as she darted over to him to wrap him in a hug. She had used her familiar, gifted to her by America in honor of her son, to travel quickly to Kumo from Azu. Ruto, teams are getting set up at the border. We can't search at night in a foreign country with foes like Orochimaru lurking. I said firmly. Naruto listened to Hikari and took a deep breath before responding. That didn't stop his voice from deepening and turning into a growl. Raikage-sama, I have a family member captured and in the hands of the vilest person in the elemental nations. A person, mind you, that is known for human-e. A person that Ka-chan said was interested in Tayuya's abilities during the Chunin exams. Naruto's tone was so saturated with menace that many of the Bolt and other shinobi were subconsciously backing away slowly. I stood and put two firm hands on Naruto's shoulders, and you look like you have nearly trained yourself to death all day. You need your rest, and we will start the search at first light tomorrow. Naruto began to protest when Kushina wrapped him from behind in a hug. Sochi, she whimpered, which instantly made Naruto place her needs and feelings above his own. Fine, at least tell me what you know so far. I nodded and walked over to the map. As he spoke, Darui pointed out the relevant spots on the map. At 9 a.m. this morning, Yugito's divine bolts were ambushed outside of Rice capital by Orochimaru. They were going to negotiate an official treaty with the daimyo, who wants to sever ties with Orochimaru. She is holed up roughly 15 miles north of the capital and we haven't gotten teams into Rice country yet. We have been communicating with Yugito all day, but she doesn't want to activate her distress beacon because Orochimaru's forces are actively looking for her. She reports she has stabilized Omoi, but he is in need of further medical attention. Nibi has stabilized her injuries and she is going to be okay holding out throughout the night. Naruto growled as he looked at the tactical map. Known enemy strength. Unknown, Darui answered. Yugito reported Orochimaru, a crystal user, a Hozuki male, some sort of berserker, an explosion release user and a Kusa ninja that used grass and flowers. Other than that, there are an unknown number of enemies and underground bases in Rice country. Tayuya's location is unknown. Naruto was growling lowly as he listened. Plan of attack. Tomorrow, all teams will move out in a coordinated net. Teams that encounter a base will activate a chakra beacon. Darui answered. Naruto scoffed. How many of those teams will be able to actually locate a hideout of Orochimaru? They are undoubtedly protected by genjutsu and other barriers. I squeezed his shoulder. Ruto, that is enough. We will find her. Naruto shook Ai's hand off his shoulder. No. He started passionately. I will summon the Eagle clan and join the search. She has a Horatian beacon, I just need to get close enough to feel it. I will create clones and they can fly with my eagles to search faster. The eagles are ready, and I can move out tonight. Ai's grip hardened on Naruto's shoulder. No, you will get your rest. You can move out tomorrow. Naruto's growl now echoed off the walls of the Raikage's office and his yokai started flaring out in a cloak around him. I activated his lightning armor in response, but it was Kushina's chakra chains that settled the argument before it could escalate. As her chains wrapped around the two men, their chakra and yokai receded and she glared at the two of them. Naruto, your plan is good, and we can do it tomorrow, Kushina emphasized tomorrow adamantly. Car-chan, Naruto's rage rapidly transitioned to despair and his voice cracked. I can't, I won't be able to sleep with her out there. Kushina locked eyes with Tsunade, who nodded and approached Naruto slowly while smiling at him in an understanding way. I know, kiddo. I will put you to sleep and Hikari will keep you there. We will be up and at M before first light and we will all go looking for Tayuya-chan. Naruto cast a betrayed look at Tsunade before he pleaded, wait. I need to let the Eagles know. Tsunade stayed her hand and Kushina unraveled her chains. Naruto shook his body out, bit his thumb and weaved through the hand seals for a summoning. Idaho, a smaller messenger eagle, appeared in the Raikage's office. He bowed to Naruto upon seeing his summoner. Idaho, tell Lady Merika that we will move out tomorrow at first light. That is, 7.5 hours from now, I will request as many flights as she is willing to give. Naruto said. Idaho bowed, it will be done, Naruto-sama. We soar with you. He disappeared in a puff of smoke and tension returned to the office. Ruto, let Tsunade help you rest. I swear, we will find her tomorrow. Get your clone's memories and then Tsunade will put you to sleep. That is an order. I finished firmly. Naruto walked over to his clone, linked hands and accepted the chakra memory influx, which compounded his exhaustion, and then nodded to Tsunade. She put him to sleep and Kushina caught him before he could hit the floor. She handed him off to Killer Bee, pretty much the only man other than I that could match Naruto's stature, and the Jinchuriki pair left the office to the Maki compound. Karui went with them, and she would tend to Naruto over the night while Kushina remained in the command center. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.